Welcome, ladies, gents, and distinguished guests, to another Misfit Artist video. I'm Ace.
I'm Alex Hirsch,
No, you're not.
Butch Hartman,
No.
Hanna-Barbera,
No.
Tim Burton.
I see what you're doing there.
I'm actually Mecha, but I will be emulating other styles because this is going to be a little Drawcast exercise that you should all do at home. And I went ahead and I drew Aero in different styles because our professor actually recommended that be something we do to improve, something we should all do to improve, learn other styles. And yeah, so anything else to add at the top, or are we just going to go into it?
We said it was Aero from HTKAM, correct?
Is that not what I said?
I don't remember.
Aero
Let's get to it anyway.
So, to kick things off, first we just draw, I thought I'll do an Aero just the way I normally do, our HTKAM-esque Misfit Art style, which is different because, you have a bit of a style, I have a bit of a style.
Right.
I do most of the character illustration for HTKAM itself. When we do other videos, we kind of pass back and forth, but for this is kind of how I go about it.
I see you drawing like the mask for the...
Yes, I'm a big fan of the mask.
Yeah.
Some people like the bean head. I like the superhero mask.
Bean head?
The little bean head, that like the easy one to draw, where the head's basically a bean. It's kind of Gravity Falls-esque. You'll see it later.
Oh, wait. No, I think I see what you're getting at. I'm sorry.
Drawfee does it a lot too. But yeah, I'm just going through. All these are gonna start with a circle too. I feel like that's, I don't know, it's worth mentioning that all heads are going into circles. Even when I draw it's like a square head, I still start with a circle.
Draw a circle. That's the Earth.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Very few people will understand where I get that.
Yeah, my style is still very shapy, especially since we draw an Aero a lot now. She has her triangle motifs. Her hair is triangles, bandana triangle, ears are triangles. When I draw her breast, I try to make it a little bit of a triangle coming off.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I do normally, when I sketch, I try to get everything down there. And then for lines, I personally like, I do it a little differently, depending if I'm animating or if I'm doing illustration.
Yeah, you do love your broad strokes.
I like broad strokes, and when I illustrate, I like a lot of pressure sensitivity on those broad strokes. When I animate, I bring the sensitivity down a little bit just to be more consistent and get less jitter. But yeah, for this I used a very wavy ink brush. However, I don't think that specific brushes are what makes a style good. It's much more about how you go about making those marks. Like, you can do any of these with just a simple basic round brush and just turn different sensitivities on and off, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I go through with that, and then when I do details, I'll either use like a fine liner brush that is smaller, or when I animate, I'll actually just turn more of that pressure sensitivity on, so that way I can have differing levels of like intensity. Because the wider strokes kind of draw your eye to certain areas. That's why like the nose and the eyes still normally have that wider brush stroke to bring your eyes to the face. But yeah, I don't know. What do you have to say so far, Ace?
I don't know. It's just interesting to see different styles, like especially between you and me, because I like drawing Aero more. Well, obviously more princess, like just more pretty.
You have a lot more classic fairy tale inspiration almost.
Well, it's more of the shoujo anime because
that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I almost did one of the styles that I emulate is an anime style. I went for Soul Eater. I thought about doing a Sailor Moon one.
That doesn't seem very you, does it?
No, but that's the point. It would have been a very good exercise for me to try to learn, but I don't know. I was more interested in doing, any anime style, like going hardcore into anime is always going to be very different from what I do. So, I thought Soul Eater was something I still enjoy, but getting out there and trying something new. Plus, after the Scooby-Doo style, I needed a win. I needed a W because this one goes well. The Scooby-Doo style is a worthy experiment, I think, but it doesn't go how I wanted it to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But enough about that. I just want to talk more about like just the specific style, because just the way that you cell shade it, like with any of your characters, but especially with Aero here, I think is very phenomenal.
With my little like cross hatching, or
No, when you when you start
layer.
Yeah,
okay,
when you start coloring this.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about, because we don't we're not going to time lapse the rendering. So I mean, I just think it's simple, and it goes back to all these styles are from animation shows, and cell shading just works for animation because, again, you're trying to do like 24 of those a second, so it's easier just to say there's a shape of shading here than careful blending.
Yeah. I do like that you gave her that kind of like cheeky smirk.
Oh yeah.
when you did that.
I did different expressions for each of these. The Hanna-Barbera one, which is what we're getting into. So I guess now we can start talking about the differences in each style. But for Hanna-Barbera, it's very simplified. Most styles are what artists kind of build up to and what they find easy to convey the information. So a Hanna-Barbera female eye is what, they found was easy to reproduce, that every artist could reproduce, because, they had a big, staff of people that all had to do the same thing. So, like, we need consistent symbols for an eye and consistent ways to show this is a female. Because obviously, Daphne's and Velma's eyes look very different than Shaggy's eyes.
Right.
A lot more round shapes, especially for the protagonist. Because any villain obviously was in, the costumes. They had all those sharp angles. But for a protagonist, they needed that round, friendly aspect to it. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to talk about the Hanna-Barbera style specifically because, like, I don't think I really nailed it completely, and I'm not great at it yet. And again, a lot of that is just because, like, they had so many restrictions. Hanna-Barbera's studio overall was founded off of, the Scooby-Doo formula worked.
Right.
And they kept that going and it's still going. But yeah, and with that, again, they use very consistent line weights. Little to no sensitivity or line tapering. The same density even for the insides and the outsides. I thought about doing cell shading on this, but
I think I see where the problem is, where you did when you were working on the Hanna-Barbera one.
Wait, please do.
The eyes were a bit too big.
Yes, that probably was. I think you're right. Yeah, which again, I just feel like it's so weird, especially from an illustration standpoint. Like, big eyes are so good; they show the emotion of a character. But I thinking back to the Scooby-Doo episodes, they had like a little bit of scared. They had the different mouths to use for lip syncing, but. Yeah. It was basically just...
If you made the eyes more smaller, I think you would have nailed it.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like she's still a little too broad. So again, we talked about this. Again, Hanna-Barbera was rigged animation. You can see there's very few characters that have an exposed like collarbone because they normally hid the neck so they could easily swap out different head shapes and everything. So
also that other shoulder was just really wonky compared to the...
Yeah, because I don't like how broad. I don't like that all the women still have broad shoulders in that show. Even
I don't think it looked as broad.
No, it was weird stuff. Again, style I wasn't good at.
Yep.
But maybe I'll try again later. This next one is a Danny Phantom, Butch Hartman, Fairly Odd Parents type thing. Which, again, big studio. This art style is
I think you really
this one I like. I think I did.
This
one is him and Gendy are definitely so. Butch Hartman, don't necessarily, as a person, don't know him, obviously. Heard controversies. Not going to get into it, but the person is not who we're necessarily respecting, but the art style is one that I watched as a kid, has influenced many people. Again, between him and Gendy Tartakovsky and Samurai Jack and stuff, I think is where I got my love of big, broad, fun shapes. And, like, even the coloring style a little bit. Like, Danny Phantom was, like, all that neon green, even though it was still, like, a lot of flat colors sometimes. Just, a great style, and
Right.
that style is formed by a whole studio of people. But there was a lot that they did that made, again, they streamlined it. Their style doesn't come from necessarily a lot of quirks they do. Their style comes from what was the most streamlined way to convey certain information. And Butch Hartman, Danny Phantom style is very, the animation can be called very jerky sometimes, but it sells because of very strong and readable poses. Nothing tangents in that show, I don't think. I had a hard time with the
chest area.
Yeah, well, because like one of the things as you see here, we have Aero's triangles. Her top comes out, tapers out of her body as a triangle. There's not a lot of examples of flowy clothes in Danny Phantom except for capes.
Right.
So I ended up eventually.
I mean, you kind of get Sam's skirt as kind of flowy.
It's definitely not flowy. It comes out, but it doesn't flow.
I mean, that's the kind of
It's
the
it's the closest flow you get.
Yeah.
I figured for this, especially looking at how women are represented, and so I used Sam as inspiration for a lot of the head shape and everything. For the body, if I drew her full body, I probably would have used some of the mom character for the body because she's a more adult, and Aero is like 20-ish. So I didn't want to give her child body type, but I didn't want to give her full mom body type because the mom in Danny Phantom is a very certain body type.
Yeah.
So I kind of split the difference. I gave her the round bottom of the chest, but because one of the things I always liked is like almost like that pointy chest. It's a very fun thing in cartoons, like especially like 1950 stuff. I always think about. Because again, I feel like that's one of the things that makes the Danny Phantom and For the Odd Parents style fun is all these edges and vertices almost. Like everything is sharp.
Yeah.
Which again complements like these fast actions, like those snappy punches and everything. So, but yeah, I mean.
But seeing it come together, it looks really well done.
Thank you. Obviously, I let my lines intersect and then erase after the fact. Again, this is, again, the basic Photoshop round brush, just with zero pressure sensitivity. And I just went through and did the outlines, and then I just made it smaller for the interior lines. Which, because again, I feel like one of the things that makes Danny Phantom character designs and animation really strong is a strong, again, easily recognizable silhouette.
Yeah.
You don't get any character mixed up with any other character because that outline is always so strong. It's like, this is Stalker, this is Danny, this is Jazz. And then it goes in with the details to help, literally sometimes tell bits of the story. You know, Danny's D on his chest that makes him read more like a superhero. All the little gadgets on the parents. But yeah, I renamed it Butchie real quick. Yeah, and
that looks really
the rendering
good.
is a very simple cell shading. I put a whole multiply layer on and then just subtracted some of the highlights.
Yeah.
So, this next one, do I go into Tim Burton?
Yeah, you went into Tim Burton.
I thought he was last. Oh wait, no, I named it Tim Burton. This is the Gravity Falls one. I'm just an idiot.
Oh my god.
Because I thought I was
name your layers correctly.
I rename it, but I thought I was gonna do Tim Burton, but I was like, I want to do a Mabel. Actually, I used Sam. Or not Sam.
Wendy.
Fudge. That was horrible. I used Wendy not so much for a body type inspiration, although again, if I was drawing her full bodied, I probably would use Wendy as reference mainly.
Right.
But the big thing that I used was the teens in Gravity Falls have slightly longer faces than the kids.
Right.
And again, especially in an animation production, I feel, and illustration as a whole, again, it's all about conveying that information effectively. And Gravity Falls, you can easily tell kid characters to the teenagers to all of the adults.
Right.
So I wanted to use that to get in there. I tried to freehand the eyes for a while. It doesn't go well. Those eyes are perfect circles. They're definitely... I feel like they have to be ellipse tools. They have to use ellipse tools for it. And it's one of those things, like, whenever I try to do something Gravity Falls-esque, if I let myself have fun with it, I'll always separate the eyes because that's just like a quirk that I can't quite handle for some reason when I draw my own work. But for this, I'm emulating the style. I'm doing it. Yeah, again, very big round shapes.
Yep.
I remember we've watched Gravity Falls.
We watched that religiously.
Yes, and we've watched the director's commentary so many times. And it's so much fun to listen to Alex Hirsch talk about how they designed the characters. And he goes into like all the shapes on the head to make the silhouette more identifiable.
Yeah.
And one of the other things, I think it was the BAM animation cartoon tutorials, they talk about the little shapes on the head being able to indicate where the character is looking. So like Aero's one bang, the way that's directed is the way her face is always facing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that shined through. Again, one brush with 0 pressure sensitivity. Because again, it would have been an animated show. When you're drawing it, you don't want those nasty jitters. And I mean, it's something that, again, for me, I like lively lines. So it's one of those things that I get kind of nervous on. But when I zoom out and take a look at this, I'm like, okay.
Like,
I mean,
hey,
even if I may not have nailed it, but I did something I like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any comments you want to make on? Because this is your favorite, you said, right?
Yeah, I thought this was another strong one.
I think they're all strong in the sense of none of them look like my style necessarily.
Right.
I think as far as the experiment goes, they all succeeded, but you like this one just as a piece as itself.
Yeah.
What do you think you like about it? Like, what do you like about the Gravity Falls style overall, you'd say?
I think it's really the big eyes really just gets that emotion across. Like we just talked about.
Yeah. Again, it very much effectively it's streamlined to get what it wants, and it's a script-driven show, so there is a lot of dialogue. Dialogue's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they focused on like a lot of the faces are also, except for like when you get into monsters and villains, consistent face shapes. They all feel human to an extent until they don't.
Right.
So it feels like, especially with the Pines family and the main crew, it feels like a family, all like a one cohesive group dealing with something.
A detail I have noticed is that like the pupils, they're much more circular than oval shaped. I don't know. You pick up on like some of these kind of details.
You think? Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Especially with a show that you watch religiously.
Yeah. I always look at it because oh yeah, they have Wendy definitely had eyelashes, I think. So that's one of those things I think I carried over into each art style, was giving Aero the little lashies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, normally it's a very simple cell shading, which works for me. Like 0 gradienting normally on the characters. But they play with color, so I want to get that blue light in there. This one was wacky.
Which one was this one?
This is the you don't see it. It's the only one with a different angle.
Oh, it's the Soul Eater one.
Yeah.
You could tell that you used Blair for this one as an inspiration, because she's doing like that catfall thing.
Yeah.
I felt that was just a bit out of character for Aero, because
I think Aero would do it in her old life. Like after a performance, maybe, if people were commenting on her, she's like, "Oh, please."
I don't know.
You don't think so? I can.
She would be. I feel like the way that I see Aero, she's more of an elegant diva.
I feel like this could be elegant diva-y.
No.
I mean, not necessarily elegant, but diva-y. You don't think?
No, I don't see Aero as that. Mind you, I birthed this character, so...
That's true. And, I mean, yeah, I used Blair as inspiration, so I wanted to look at how... Because, like, bending a hand over like that at that angle was hard, so I wanted to see how they draw hands overall. Yeah, I want it to be expressive, because I feel like that's one... Like, Soul Eater as an anime, it kind of breaks the form almost, because a lot of anime is very rigid and very consistent. Because of their studio structure. Again, it's a lot of people who have to be able to draw the exact same thing. Very stressful. And one of the reasons I like shows anime like Soul Eater or Gurren Lagann is it still feels lively. It still has a lot of that hand-drawn feel to it that is like, we're willing to break our rigs to an extent.
Yeah.
I feel like especially Blair will do that. Like, she's like, they'll draw her in so many crazy angles and so many different ridiculous face shapes and everything. So I wanted to get one of those faces that was very anime-esque. Like I didn't want just her looking. I want an anime face.
Right.
I want to lean into this style as much as I can, and reference is a lifesaver.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I feel like this isn't a pose Aero would do often, but I think that there are some examples where I could see it happening.
Yeah. Meanwhile, for me, I don't ever see it happening.
I don't know. I feel like now all I'm going to do is try to find a scenario in the show where it can happen. And I'm going to reference
And I will
this
veto
episode.
it.
No, I'll make it happen. And I'll always look at you and be like, remember that time I made Aero do it? And you're like, shut up.
No, that will never happen. I'm not going to let it happen.
Watch me. You can't stop me. I storyboard them. But yeah.
But you always send them over to me for input, so...
That's true. I do respect everyone else's opinions, but... Nah. I'm gonna find a way to weasel it in somewhere. It's gonna be one of those things that will happen. I'll point it out right as, like, we release the video and be like, gosh darn it! How did I miss it? I don't know, because it still feels Aero to me. Like, I don't think any of these illustrations, they all still read as Aero, like, recognizably.
Right.
It's I don't know. Writing is always a thing. It's situational.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's a way for any character to do anything, where so it's like, is it necessarily in character? Maybe not, but I can always see a character being pushed to do something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Oh, I think I know where that would happen to her. Like,
okay. Yeah. I like how we haven't talked about the style at all. We just went full into to this whole would Aero make a cat pose? Do you want to say where you think it'd be, or?
It will be in the spoiler territory, so I don't want to say on air just yet.
You'll let me make it happen at some point?
Yes, and I know that she will fucking hate it. She's just gonna, like, cringe so hard. She's just crying inside, like... Dear Lord, why have I? Why am I doing this?
My own character type. Yeah. Now we have Tim Burton, which you can tell by that very. It's weird because when you think Tim Burton, you always think of his stop motion work, but when you look at his illustrations, you can see where
so
it gets
good.
there. Yeah, it's so good. It's distinctive.
Right.
Any style mashup video has to have a Tim Burton. And I feel like the biggest thing is keeping it in that uncanny valley almost. Everything has to feel doll-like or like it was drawn by a child to an extent. Just to like capitalize on those uneasy feelings.
Right. And I think you really done that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's weird because like Tim Burton never really... He doesn't have as many things that he falls into for comfortability. Like nothing is like so readable almost. Except for like... he has how he draws a main character. Past that, how he draws anyone in Nightmare Before Christmas, anyone in The Corpse Bride, they all get different. The only consistency is how he draws a protagonistic human. That's where you'll get that big, like, bean head type thing, that elongated face, some things with women, but I feel like he doesn't rely on as many like single tricks as other artists do.
Right.
And everything about the way he illustrates lets it have grit and feel like an illustration. He's not trying to emulate reality. He's trying to emulate a feeling, which is so much fun. So that's why this is one where I do feel like one brush can make a difference. Like I used because no one thinks of Tim drawing digitally. He's always drawing on paper. So
right.
I chose a specifically drawing pencil brush I had, which basically just it adds some teeth and jitter, some opacity to it even.
Right.
'Cause again, his illustrations are so inconsistent in a way. I almost made her hair more frizzy, but I ended up.
She's too good for that.
It wasn't even that. It's just I feel like that's again the bangs, the bits that come down the ears. Like her hair shape is one of the very recognizable things for her. I feel like.
Right.
So I feel like if we made a stop motion maquette of her, then she would have frizzy hair because we'd probably use like yarn or something. But for drawing, I decided to keep it
Just
consistent.
keep it,
Yeah, it's not just drawing in Tim Burton style; it's drawing this character in Tim Burton style, which is one of the things. Like commending you and your original character. Aero was recognizable in all these styles, which I feel like is one of the a great way to test if you have a good character or not is can it be recognized in other ways. Like, it doesn't feel like I just drew a girl. I didn't just draw a girl. I definitely drew Aero. And she fits comfortably in all these styles. So again, I feel like you've done a great job at creating this great character.
We both redesigned her.
Yes, she's gone through a lot of hard work from many parties, but I mean, it's like I said, it's always gonna be your baby. It's always gonna be this thing that you spawned.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is the only one where I do a little bit of shading in it because I feel like the shading for this feels like part of the inking process almost.
Yeah. But I liked how it turned out though.
Made sure it felt very watercolory and splotchy. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's those styles. I hope you all enjoyed it. I would love to see all of y'all's draw an Aero, a Flopsy, or anyone else from the HTKAM crew draw Tonfa in your style and someone else's style. Draw your own OCs in someone else's style. Get practicing. Like if you want to be a professional artist, people ask like, "Oh, how do you find your style?" That doesn't matter. Your style doesn't matter. No one cares about your style, sadly, until they do. But you'll get way more jobs if you could draw in it. If you're doing commissions, if you can draw someone's characters in anime, they'll love you. If you can draw in their style and be consistent, you'll get a gig there.
Yeah.
If you're just trying to increase your own skills, you'll learn other tricks. Like there are definitely things that I always watched Danny Phantom and all this, but I never actually drew like that. And now I feel like I have tricks I'm going to be bringing into HTKAM moving forward.
Yes.
Yeah, comment which one you like the most. Comment if you want to see me draw some full body shots in different styles, because I was thinking about doing Flopsy like this. Drawing Flopsy as like a Danny Phantom.
I would probably take my hand into doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, just comment what you would like to see, what other styles we should try for the crew. Until next time, we'll see you later. Stay safe.
Stay spooky.
Stay weird.
Goodbye.
Bye.